Hello Whovians and welcome to my latest Doctor Who review, where today I review the 10th episode of Doctor Who Series 6, The Girl Who Waited, starring Matt Smith as the 11th Doctor. Okay, The Girl Who Waited, this is also the 221st Doctor Who story overall, and the plot of this story is as follows. The Doctor, Rory and Amy land on Apalachia in the middle of a plague. Amy is left behind and the Doctor and Rory must save her, but time for Amy is running at a very different speed. So, The Girl Who Waited, well, as you know, so far this series has been a plethora of disappointments, with a couple of good stories in there, but really it's not been the best. I'm very pleased to say that The Girl Who Waited is indeed one of the best, and one of the strongest of this series. Thank God. But no, seriously, it is very good, and it's refreshing, and it actually, like Night Terrors, it has nothing to do with the whole River Song story arc, which I think is nice, and it allows the series to take a bit of a breather from that. I like the idea of this story. I think the basically the way the story is executed is brilliant, because it's a real character study for the relationship between Amy and Rory. This is Arthur Darvill's finest hour. Like, this is his best performance by far out of all of the episodes he's in. This is the one where I say, yep, this is Arthur Darvill's greatest performance as Rory. He is so good in this story. He has to take Rory to an emotional level, and the fact that Rory essentially is the protagonist of the story, how he has to choose between two different versions of his wife, the future version who's older, or the young version. So yeah, and that's what works really well about the story, is the emotional side of the story, and I must admit, it's a really, could be a bit of a tearjerker at the end. You know, the last scene with the future Amy and Rory is quite sad. It really is played very sadly. I think the direction on this story is superb by Nick Hurren, who directed it. He did a really good job, and the performances are just so good in this story. And on the subject of Rory, like, Rory's relationship with the Doctor is also tested. Like, he really comes to question what the Doctor's doing, and he even throws the glasses off at one point and says, "I don't want to travel with you anymore." It gets that heated, and it's a great story to show how dark the Doctor can be. The Doctor manipulates and he lies in this story quite a bit. He doesn't do much. He kind of is centered in the TARDIS, but in terms of the drama with the three characters, the Doctor is very duplicitous. He lies about the outcome of the story. Basically, he lies to Rory in saying that we could have two Amy's in the TARDIS, but actually that's a complete lie. And I think we as the audience can kind of gauge that, yeah, that is a complete lie. There's no way that they could live with two Amy's. I think the Doctor just wanted to spare Rory and Amy any heartbreak, or he would have hoped that he wouldn't have had to say to them that, Rory had to choose. And that's the thing, because when they meet Amy in the future, she's been waiting for 36 years and she's really angry, and yeah, she's not happy with the Doctor. She still kind of loves Rory, but even though she's still unhappy, she has a lot of resentment, and it's a really different side to Amy, which I really appreciate. This is probably one of Karen Gillan's best performances as well. She's really playing effectively two characters, or two different sides of Amy. And there's a scene when both the Amys talk to each other through this giant magnifying glass, and I like that moment because it's a great insight into Amy's character and how she's changed, and in terms of what Amy used to be like in the past and then what Amy will be like in the future. So that was a really clever scene. I really like that. Amy and Rory's love story in this one is probably the best it's ever been. You really feel like, yeah, the emotions are at an all-time high, and again, this story is all about Rory. I think this is Rory's episode, and it's handled brilliantly. It really is. And that's what works about this story, is that it is a drama between the three characters, the Doctor, Amy, and Rory, even though the Doctor is centered in the TARDIS for most of the story. But like I said, he's not necessarily the the hero he ought to be in this one. He is a little bit manipulative, and he's a little bit of a liar. But in the end, I find that Rory could have been a bit less forgiving of the Doctor. He seems to just kind of, forget about everything he said earlier, like, "I don't want to travel with you anymore." Like, that seems to have been brushed under the carpet, so I think they could have maybe addressed that somewhat towards the end. But I think to be honest, maybe by that point Rory was just happy to have his wife back. He's happy to have Amy back. But yeah, if there's anything that works against the story, it's probably the robots. They're called the handbots. They're just these plain white robots All they do is they go up to you and say, "Don't be alarmed. This is a kindness," and they try and attack people. They're kind of bland, to be honest. I mean, if there's anything that takes a point off for the story, it's probably them. They're not terrible. They're just kind of meh. You know, they're just bland. They don't do much. And the future Amy actually, you know, rewires one, and she names it after Rory, which is kind of sweet. Although I have to also make one other criticism. When the future Amy meets Rory again, she says, "I waited for you." And I'm thinking to myself, hang on a minute. That's being a bit hypocritical. Rory waited 2,000 years for you. So I don't think you can call shit on that comment. So yeah, I don't think Amy had the right to say that. I also think the Murray Gold soundtrack is really good in this one. And again, it's very emotional. And the last scene when Rory and Amy are up against the TARDIS doors, or each side of the TARDIS doors, then the future Amy says, "I'm giving her the days that I could never have, and you know, let her have the life with you." And oh god, it's very sad. It's it's a sad moment when the future Amy allows herself to die. And it's so hard for Rory as well. I mean, this is the only time I think we've ever seen Rory emotional. Like he's crying. Well, actually no, tell a lie. We've seen him emotional before, but this is, I think, where Rory is pushed to his absolute edge. You know, he he doesn't really know what to do in this story, because you know, he doesn't want, either way, whichever wife he doesn't choose, it's going to have repercussions. So naturally, he's kind of, yeah, he's totally lost with what to do with this story. I like the setting of the story, Appalachia. I mean, most of the setting is just kind of a plain white room and like sort of utility corridors, and then there is like a botanical garden somewhere as well that Amy goes into. But I mean, the setting isn't amazing, but it's good. You know, I would have liked to have seen more of the Appalachia, but apparently there's a plague going on, so there's no one around. But there's loads of different time streams all looping around each other, which is causing a massive problem, of course. I feel like they could have addressed what happened to the people. In the end of the story, surely the Doctor would have tried to get those people out of those time loops like they did with Amy. And because surely that would have caused a big rupture in time or something. But I understand that wasn't the focus of the story, but still, it would have been nice to know what happened. I think the story is beautifully written by Tom McRae, and again, it's more of a personal story. It's not necessarily an adventurous story. It is a emotional drama, which I think works really well. And considering the fact that we've had a lot in this series to do with River and who's their daughter, you know, it's interesting to now just focus on these two and their love for each other, which I think is great. And also, Matt Smith gives a great performance as the Doctor. And it moves along well, it doesn't drag at all, and I think, again, the concept is really good, and I was really enraptured by the emotion of it. I mean, again, the robots are a little disappointing, that would be the only thing. There are some cool action scenes towards the end, which are fun when they fight the robots. That's really cool. So yeah, I think The Girl Who Waited is a great Doctor Who story, a really, really great one, and definitely one of the strongest in Series 6. Is it the best? I don't know, we'll see. But it's a contender for sure. So I'm going to give The Girl Who Waited a very strong 9 out of 10. Yeah, very beautifully written Doctor Who story. We needed the whole series to be like this, to be honest. But anyway, that's my review of The Girl Who Waited. What do you think of this story? Please comment down below, let me know, and stay tuned next time when I review The God Complex. So until then, I'm Mr. TARDIS 11. See ya. Bye for now.